Hello and welcome to this review of the Xcam 2-axis gimbal. This is a very cheap gimbal for smartphones. Let's see what it's like. So first off, it comes in this very large box. Inside the box there's not really a great deal to tell. It's packaged in a standard box really. I've taken everything out already because I'm going to show you in a moment. So it comes in this lovely bag. And the other accessories you get with it are an Allen key for making adjustments and these pads, and we'll come to these pads a little bit later. So let's look at this and let's turn it around this way. So you fold up these flaps and these are spring loaded and you put your smartphone in like so. Now it is designed for bigger smartphones and I've had to put my 5C in a case because it fell out when I wasn't using a case. So that's where these come in. If you have a small phone, you can stick these here and here. I've stuck them on, then I've removed them, hence why they're stuck together. So they just help fit a smaller phone in. So here we can see the power button and it charges via USB and this illuminates green when it's charging. So here you would charge it via USB. Here is the up and down controller and if you press that in it does something which I'll talk about later, and the power button is on top. In terms of using it, before you can, you've got to balance it. So you've got to hold it so that it doesn't turn. So you'll see that isn't balanced. So you spend a lot of time adjusting the balance before you use it. So it's one of those, I don't have any other gimbals, but it's one of those things where you need a little bit of setup time before you can use it. And it's virtually impossible to be able to mark where it is for a quick setup. So if I hold that up, you see it's leaning that way, hold it up, yes, that balances. And one of the problems I had before I got the case was to get it to balance, I'd have to put it in this position and this would often press down on one of the volume buttons. So adding the case to it had two features really. One, it stopped the volume button being pressed down, and two, it made it a tighter fit. So you can see I'm just going to make some slight adjustments and I'm quite happy with that. Holding it like that, it balances. So I open it out like this and when I turn it on the top, we can see that the phone stays where it should. So if I move it around like crazy, it stays there. Now what I'm doing here, you can see it's on because we've got some light coming out of there, blue light. Now what happens here is I can adjust the camera, I can adjust the phone moving up and down with this dial here. So I can do some nice tilts up and down and get the phone to move up and down. What's really good is if I do this, if I lower it, notice it stays in the same position. Doesn't really matter what I do to it, it stays in the same position, which is really, really good. So it means for getting low shots, I can hold it like this, and I can get some low shots, and I can move things up and down like so. So I can get some nice panning shots. I can move it up and down, adjust focus if I need to, which is really, really good. The other thing, I talked about this button earlier, this button here, this is Bluetooth enabled. So if I pair it with my phone and I press this button in, it starts recording on the phone. So one press of this and it starts recording on the iPhone as long as I've got the video app open. So I'm using Apple's native app and pushing that in will start the phone recording straight away and pushing it will stop it. And then at the end of the day, fold down like that and put your gimbal away. So we can see we've got the iPhone 5C with the gimbal in the car. I'm sat down. It's pretty smooth and we're going quite fast within the legal speed limits though. And here's without the gimbal, and you can see there is a bit of up and down and it's not as sturdy, but do remember I am sat down. So here I'm walking with no gimbal And you can see I'm just walking normally and I'm holding the phone out in front of me, and here's walking with the gimbal. And walking with the gimbal seems so much smoother than walking without the gimbal. But one of the things that's really good and why I got this gimbal was for doing pan shots and tilt shots and rises and just adding more fluid movements like this. This is really easy to do with the gimbal. I don't need to carry a jib with me. I've got my iPhone and this gimbal and I can do these really good shots. Now I've also filmed the gimbal being used on a walk, and you can see that it's moving to adjust for the vibrations of me walking. And you can see in this picture, it does sort of seem to jump forward a bit. This is the actual gimbal picture here from the gimbal. And you can see it's really good. I'm lifting it up and I'm now tilting it down to get a different perspective and a different view, which is a really good feature of the gimbal. And it will stay looking in the same plane. I did find when walking that there are some sort of occasional bumps. So here I'm tiptoeing to try and avoid those bumps with limited success really. And I've stopped here and I'm just going to do like a tilt round, sort of 180. And that's really where the gimbal comes into play. So the gimbal is by no means perfect. It's not a 3-axis gimbal. So when walking, you do get the occasional bumps, but you do get such a smoother video when using it. And you know what? For the price, compared to a 3-axis gimbal, I think this 2-axis gimbal is fine.